Welcome to Cooking with Mrs. Salisbury. Today we're going to make frosted cinnamon rolls. Let's start with our yeast dough first. I have 1.5 cups of warm water. The water should be just about the same temperature as our body, 98.6. It can be a little bit warmer, but if you get it too hot, up to about 130 degrees, you're going to kill the yeast. You don't want to do that, so let's keep it about the same temperature as our body. So in this bowl, I'm going to have 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons of butter. I have 1.5 cups of warm water. I'm going to need 1/4 cup of honey or 4 tablespoons. If you will oil the utensil or measuring cup when you have something sticky like honey or molasses, Karo syrup, it'll slide right out. As you see right here, it's sliding right out. I can use a rubber scraper for just a little bit, but it comes out so fast. Okay, good. So I have the warm water, the honey, I need my yeast. So if you have the 3 packs that yeast comes in when you buy it at the store, each package has 2 1/4 teaspoons. If in our tablespoon, I have 3 teaspoons. So if I use just a little bit less than a tablespoon, called a scant tablespoon, that would be a package of yeast. So I buy mine in a big bag, so I have plenty of yeast. Anytime I want to make yeast bread, I keep it in a plastic zip bag, and then I put it in the door of the refrigerator. Yeast also has a pull date, so make sure you look at that. You're going to want to know whether the yeast is working or not. Yeast loves sugar, so you'll see it start to bubble a little bit. So let me just mix this butter up in here just a tiny bit. A tiny bit more honey in there. Okay, we'll put that over there. So when the yeast starts to bubble, you know it's working. It's already starting to bubble. So that's called proofing. I say proving the yeast that it's working, because I don't want to go through making yeast bread and it not work. Okay, so we have our water, our honey, our yeast, our butter. Next, we need non-fat dried milk, powdered milk. You cannot tell the difference, and it's already been heated. And because it's already been heated, you can just add it to the warm water and it saves a lot of time. You cannot tell the difference on flavor versus regular milk. You cannot tell the difference. If you use regular milk, you're going to need to heat it until it's steaming, little bubbles form, not boiling, just steaming. Then you have to let it cool down. So powdered milk is so much faster, and I want to save my fresh milk for something I need fresh milk for. Okay, so again, our water, our honey, our yeast, our butter, non-fat dried milk. Then next we'll add our 4 cups of flour. I measured 3 out here, so let's have 1 more cup of flour. We'll turn that knife upside down. 4 cups of flour. You'll probably need about another 1/2 cup by the time you are kneading it, and that you also and when you're rolling it out. So make sure you have a little bit extra out. Now I'm going to stir this right now. I don't want my hand in this so-called dough right now, because what's going to happen is I'd be wearing it, and we want to eat it, not wear it. So don't put your hands in yet. Let's wait. Now, I waited to add the salt, don't forget, but I'm adding the salt now because I wanted to give the yeast a chance to work. So since the yeast has a chance to work, then I add the salt in at the last, but you have to set it there so you'll remember it. Yeast regulates, or salt regulates the yeast, so I always think of salt as a sheriff in town, and the salt says, settle down, you're growing too fast, settle down. So you need salt for flavor, and it regulates the yeast. Now if you look, the dough has already come away from the bowl here. And I'm going to have some extra flour. I'm going to put in this measuring cup so I can have it at my fingertips. So it's a little sticky. This is a medium consistency dough. Now I'm putting my hands in. And when you knead it, you bring it up to the center. Let's move a couple more things off. You bring it up to the center. So if you knead it on the counter, I don't want to clean the mess, but you knead it with the heel of your hand. In the bowl, you can keep everything right here in the bowl, and it's a lot less of a mess. little bit of flour, not too much, just a little bit at a time. If it's a tiny bit sticky, a little bit. I just sprinkled a little bit on, not too much. Then, if you knead it in the bowl, the mess stays in the bowl. I like that. So it makes yeast bread really fast and easy to make. And you see underneath here, I have 2 pieces of plastic wrap, because with the plastic wrap, I can just fold up my mess when I'm done. So if we're looking here, this is coming together as a really nice dough here. All right, so next I'm going to look at it. Not bad. It's a tiny bit sticky, so I'll put a little bit more flour here. And I'm bringing this up to the center. Now, yeast dough loves to be kneaded. I told you with quick breads, let go of them. Yeast bread loves to be kneaded. It develops the gluten, and that is the structure bread rises on. As soon as you add liquid to flour, then you form gluten. So I have a bench scraper. You could also use a knife. I'm going to cut it apart. Doesn't have to be neat or nice. You can also use a butter knife. And then I'm going to knead it again. I learned from a professional that if you do this, professional bread maker, yes, in boulangerie, that if you do this, that it will give you even a nicer texture on your bread and develop the gluten even more. That person was right too. Okay, so cut this apart. I'm going to do it 3 times. I'll cut it apart and knead it back together again 3 times. It doesn't have to be completely apart. That's a tiny bit sticky. I'll add just a tiny bit more flour. Now I'm going to cut it apart again. Again, I don't have to be nice about it. And knead it back. So it needs to be a nice, smooth dough. Let's see how we're doing here. I'm bringing it up to the center, bring it up to the center, and then if you do that with your fist here, then you'll get a beautiful dough. Now, about right now, I hear this little sound, and that's when it's coming away from the bowl. When I hear that sound, I know it's really nice and smooth on the other side. Let's go ahead and take a peek. You hear that sound? Beautiful. So at this point, I'm going to leave it, you know I'm picky, I just had to do it one more time, just one more. Let's look at it again. Yes, it's still gorgeous. Now, I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap. I'm going to put it in over by the warm oven, over on top of the stove or next to it. Remember, do not put, if you have an electric stove, do not put it on the back right-hand burner. The oven vents through the back right-hand burner, and you will be cooking the bread before it's even risen, and that won't work. Some stoves will have the vent all the way across the whole back, so don't put it on those 2 back burners. Bring it on the counter alongside the stove, or maybe even on a front burner, but we want to make sure nothing else is on. Now I'm going to cover this and let it rise for 45 minutes until it's doubled in bulk. You could go probably about an hour, but you don't want to keep letting it rise. About 45 minutes, and it'll be twice the size. Just a minute, I have one rising over here. Let me bring it over, and then we'll start making the cinnamon rolls. Just a second. This one has been rising for the past 45 minutes, and I want to show you how we roll the dough out and we make the filling for our frosted cinnamon rolls. You can tell the dough is risen long enough when you poke 2 fingers in, and if you still see an indentation, and you see that indentation, so we know it's risen long enough. All right, let's just sprinkle our plastic wrap again with a little bit of flour, not too much. The carbon dioxide, you'll hear a bit will come out. We'll set this over here. You hear that? Yep. Tiny bit of flour. See how I'm just putting a tiny bit on? Not a lot. And then we're going to roll the dough out into a rectangle. roll the dough into a rectangle. Well, I don't need this, so we can move that. We can move that. We're getting ourselves some more workspace. Okay. This is a fun little rolling pin. You can also use it making raviolis, but I sometimes have fun just using it for a regular rolling pin. Okay, now I'm going to form a rectangle. I'm going to say about an 1/8 to a 1/4 of an inch thick. If you need to make it, if it's rounding, then start here in the middle and go out, here in the middle and go out, and then you'll get that rectangle. Here in the middle, go out, come straight up here, here in the middle and go out. Oh, this is a really nice dough, really nice. Again, here in the middle, go out because I'm trying to get that rectangle. Here in the middle and go out. The rolling pin ran away for a second. Okay, now on frosted cinnamon rolls, it needs to be a drier filling. Normally we just have butter, sugar, and cinnamon, but this needs to be a drier filling. So the filling that we'll be putting in, just a second, filling we'll be putting in has 1 cup of brown sugar, a 1/4 cup of flour that I'm going to add in, 1/4 cup of flour, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1 cube of butter, because this needs to be a little bit, this filling needs to be not so much just butter and cinnamon, or it'll be too gooey when you add that frosting on. So we need it a little bit drier. That was the word I was looking for, just a little bit drier, and we do that by putting some flour in it. Okay, so flour, butter, sugar, cinnamon, we got it all there. Okay, now I need you to leave about a 1-inch border going all the way around. Leave a 1-inch border, because if not, the dough won't stick together. Now you can use the back of the spoon and you can just spread this, or you can do it in crumbles. Either way works just fine, but leave 1 inch going around. This is a lovely dough, lovely dough. Okay, you're going to have cinnamon rolls in no time. All right, let me spread this over here. We need this goodness all the way around. Like I said, it's perfectly fine to have some crumbs. You could have some little crumbs on it, doesn't matter. You can use your hands here. Sometimes the hands are faster. We have good tools here. They're hands. It doesn't have to be pretty. I just need it spread out evenly, but just doesn't have to be pretty. So about like that. Like I said, the flour will make it so it's a tiny bit drier, because when we add the frosting, it's just going to seep down in, and if not, the roll will collapse. Okay, all right, that looks good. So I have a little bit of an edge here, as you see, going all the way around. Let me make it just a little bit closer. A little bit of an edge going all the way around. Okay, about 1 inch going around. Just check, see how yours is looking. Okay, now, wipe my hands. Next, we're going to start rolling it up. So we roll it up. I need to bring this up, make sure you don't have the plastic wrap in it, and I need to roll it fairly tightly. Again, watch the plastic wrap. And then I start at this end, and I just come across. Start at this end. See how I just kind of roll it? It doesn't need to be extremely tight. Just roll it up like this. Now, this is curved here. This is curved. All I have to do is bring this dough out a little bit like that, and then it'll come right up. So let's see how we're doing. Excellent, excellent. This is looking really good. And then when we come to this point, we're going to pinch it shut. So we're going to bring this up, pinch it shut. We're going to get 12 lovely rolls out of this. 12 lovely rolls. Again, watch that saran wrap. Okay, I'm just pinching. It has to be pinched closed. If it's not pinched closed, it'll come undone. So we want that pinched closed. Now I'm going to roll this over, roll it over, and then I'm also going to go like this and bring it in a little bit. Okay, next you can use dental floss or a sharp knife. So I need to put this right in the middle. So I got to find where the middle is here. The best way to do it is if you go like this with your hands. It's going to be about right here, so I need to move this over just a little bit. Okay, perfect. Then what you do with the floss, as soon as we can find the other end of the floss, here it is you crisscross it and it cuts the roll. So we need 6 out of each side. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll have 5, 6. And then, if not, you can also use a knife if you didn't want to use dental floss. So you can have that. You can cut one at both ends. So if you know that that's 2, there's 3. You have to use a sharp knife though. 4. Here's 5, 6. Put the knife over here. Next, you need, for frosted cinnamon rolls, you need to have an oiled pan. So I oiled this pan. Make sure it's not too much oil, but I just used some oil here. And here, this has a bit too much oil, so I'm just going to take a tiny bit of paper towel and wipe that out. I'm going to set the rolls in. I'm going to use 2 pans. You can use 1 if you have a 9 by 13. So I'm going to put these right in my pan. You leave a little bit of space between them. Leave a little bit of space between them. Let's see how many we have here. That one's a bit smaller. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6. This one's a little bit smaller, so I think I'm going to move this one over and this one in this pan. But do you see how I'm flattening the tops of them? I'm flattening the tops so they will spread out a bit. So I just flatten the tops a bit. Now I'm going to cover these and let them rise for 45 minutes, and then they will double in bulk, and then we will bake them at 375 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes. Make sure you check it about 25 minutes, and we'll be back when they're ready and make our frosting. For a second, we'll wrap these up and set the timer for about 45 minutes. These will be beautiful. Welcome back to our frosted cinnamon rolls. I took them out of the oven after 26 minutes. I said about 25, well, sorry for all the noise, 25 to 30 minutes. Mine were in 26 minutes. We're going to make a quick frosting here. Our icing here is the butter and cream cheese and vanilla. We're going to add a tablespoon of milk and a cup of powdered sugar to that. So remember, we're going to mix slowly. And the cinnamon rolls have been out about 10 minutes, so they need to cool down a little bit, because if not, the frosting will really melt and just go straight down. Okay, so we have our vanilla, butter, our powdered sugar, cream cheese. That's going to be good. So at this point, let's go ahead and ice the rolls. They're just warm. They're not cold, they're warm. They've been out, like I said, about 10 minutes. By the way, if your cinnamon rolls, let me show you something. If they, try to grab it, it's hot. If they pop up here in the middle, you can just push them down. Perfect, no problem. Okay, so we're going to ice these. The reason we had the filling, remember, with the butter and the cinnamon and the brown sugar, we had the flour, is because it makes the dough a little bit more strong, so that when this icing slides down inside, it's going to not be too gooey. It'll be just perfect. Okay, we'll just put a little bit of icing on them. We have our second pan here. I'm going to move this over so you can see. We'll get our second pan all iced up here. So I ice these in the pan and then I remove them. And if you have a rectangular pan, you can use that, whatever you have. Almost done. Just have a couple more and the perfect amount of icing. Not too much, but just enough of that wonderful cream cheese icing. Oh my gosh, that is looking nice. They're really fast to make. You can just let the dough rise while you're doing something else. Okay, let's move this over. You need to come around the back side. I already lifted these up a little bit. Come around the back side and I cut them apart. Not bad, huh? Okay, so let's go ahead and get the cinnamon rolls out. We'll put a few here on the plate for you to see. I always like the center one. My grandma graciously let me have the center one. So let's put that center one here. Another one. You can see how lovely these will be. And get the hot pad again, move that over. Our frosted cinnamon rolls. Enjoy! Thank you for cooking with Mrs. Salisbury. See you next time.